Well, hi again, folks. I'm Greg Flynn, the Public Information Director here for the City of Pearl, and we are going to go under the dome over at the state legislature with our two distinguished gentlemen from Pearl and Rankin County. They are Senator Dean Kirby, Representative Gene Newman, and these guys have been burning some midnight oil right now because hard to believe you guys are getting close to the finish line.
Well, we are. You know, we started out with over 3,000 bills. We're down to less than 1,000 now.
I'd say we're less than 500 now.
Yeah, not counting appropriation bills. If you count, the revenue bills. But yeah, we are. We've worked hard and done a lot of good things. So we're pleased with where we are at this time. We're going to be burning a little bit more midnight oil, I think.
Boy, and you've had a lot of, and again, it's the process. You've had a lot of cleaning up and tweaking bills that have come from either chamber, and that's been a lot of the work you've been doing to try to keep bills alive, you know, by finding a common ground in them. One of them is the Capitol Police District. The House had sent over that the Capitol Police territory would grow to where they can patrol, and then also develop a new court system separate from the city of Jackson, that any tickets or arrests made by the Capitol Police would go to a separate court system to not bog down the city of Jackson or Hinds County right now. That went over to the Senate, and the Senate has taken out a version of the courts. So the courts, basically, the separate court goes away. Gene, why don't you explain a little bit what they want to do?
Okay, so what our bill originally did was it set up a special court. The judges and the prosecutors were appointed. Judges, prosecutors appointed by the Supreme Court, and the prosecutors appointed by the Attorney General. These would handle everything from, like you said, tickets, misdemeanor cases, to felonies. But once a felony, in other words, once it reached the point where they needed to be indicted, it would go over to circuit court. We were not trying to take anything from Jackson or Hinds County, simply adding to it. The problem with Jackson courts are twofold. Number one is they have signed consent decrees in the city of Jackson that prohibits them from arresting misdemeanors, or, you know, when I say arresting, putting them in jail. They can charge them, but they can't put them in jail. And also in that decree, they said that they would not do anything to collect fines. They can't issue warrants or anything when somebody doesn't pay their fines. So they kind of really messed up the misdemeanor court section, and that allows people to run red lights and do those things and not worry about any repercussions. What the Senate has done is done away with those minor courts, and they're just adding circuit court judges to the circuit court permanently, or let permanently, but for 3 years through 2026, so that they know without a doubt those judges are going to be there, and they're going to add DAs to that. You know, the problem with the circuit court over there is they're way behind. We've given them circuit court judges and prosecutors already that we've already added to what they had, allowing the Supreme Court to appoint judges in there, and the DA to hire additional DAs. But you know, they're still far behind, so they still need help there. But that's not necessarily a lack of judges as much as it is a lack of work ethic, and I'll stop there. But you know, what the Senate has done, now, the way I understand it, they've still expanded the district some, in other words, the Capitol Police District some, but they've also they've made it where the Capitol Police would possibly come under JPD with some kind of understanding. And I can tell you right now, the whole House is going to be against that. That's like a no-go to begin with. We will not let the Capitol Police come under Jackson Police Department. Now, for them to work together, by all means, let's let them work together, but not come under the police. No.
Well, so Dean, one of the things that you hear from Gene there, why Why did the Senate have to move so drastically away from the original concept?
Well, first off, it's great to have a bill, but it's got to be a bill that you can pass. And so that's part of the problem. Now,
but what would be the apprehension in trying to get it to pass? Are there enough senators in there that are staunchly against it?
There are senators in the other part of this state that do not want to help Jackson with anything. I would just be honest with you. They think Jackson's out of control. They're saying just leave them alone, let them go, let them just keep robbing and stealing and shooting and everything else, and we'll go home and take care of our districts.
Even though they got to come to work in Jackson.
Even though they got to come to work in Jackson. That's right. But when they try to help, they get criticized. So if they're going to be criticized, okay, well then here it is. Now, fortunately, that's not the majority of the senators. But yeah, we're trying to work with Jackson. It's very difficult. When they won't meet with you, when they everything is like we're trying to take control, and that's not true. We're just trying to help them, and we want to do anything we can to help them. As far as the judges, I think, well, I don't know if the crime is outrunning the judges or the judges just aren't working the hours and putting in the work that's necessary, but we got a real problem in Jackson. I think they had, what, a 3,500, 3,700 backlog or something like that.
Of cases?
Of cases, yes. And,
of felony circuit court cases.
Wow.
That's been indicted.
That's crazy.
That's not the ones that.
Oh, that's not the
that's just under
misdemeanor.
investigation. That's been indicted.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see.
We've got, but look, Jackson is a capital city. Unfortunately, other states, and I say unfortunately because that's the proper word, I think, other states judge our state by what they hear on the city of Jackson.
Sure.
I mean, we're having people from other states calling us saying, what is going on in Mississippi? Why do you guys have all this water problem? Well, the state doesn't have a water problem. We tell them that's the city of Jackson. So what I'm saying is we need to help Jackson all we can, but they've got to let us help them. And they've got to meet with us and let's work together. And right now we're not getting that.
Well, the proof is in the pudding, they always say. At least to start the year, since the Capitol Police has expanded, homicides are actually down compared to years past from January till now. They're down. So obviously they're making a difference.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're making a big difference. And I'm having people from Jackson, and there have been legislators from Jackson that actually want to know if they can be in the expanded district. I'm talking about minority, Democratic, city of Jackson legislators that want protection.
But they won't necessarily come out and say it in public.
Oh, they're not going to say it.
That's the problem, right, Gene?
That's the problem.
Is you have the guy, they all want it, but politically they can't go out and say.
And I don't really understand that. I don't really understand how they can't be for law and order. That does not make sense to me. I mean, I'm sorry. So if they're not for law and order, that means they're for the criminals, and it needs to be said like that.
Yeah.
It'll be. I hope you guys can push something out. I do. I really
we'll
do.
We'll have something.
Well, they can get passed over in the House as well.
The lieutenant governor alone, there's one Jackson resident right there that his wife's purse was ripped off her arm not long ago, and the guy took off running, and they never found him, of course. And his truck was stolen out of his driveway. I mean, so we have a major problem with the city of Jackson. And we're doing our best to get it under control. Expanding, we're still going to expand the district. We're still going to have more Capitol Police. We're buying new equipment, new cars, new everything to help them. So we're getting there, but it's a slow process when you're trying to do it all on your own without the help of the city.
And that's just crazy. One of the other big stories that popped up over the weekend was that Governor Reeves has now said that he's willing to extend Medicaid postpartum for moms and newborns that's currently covered under the old COVID rules that set that in place where there were more people covered. He's now come out over the weekend and said, I'd be willing to extend that now if the legislature so desires, that if that bill comes to my desk, I will do that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in the I don't think any of the Republicans in the legislature House or Senate, want to expand Medicaid. But they don't see this as an expansion, and I think we might be the only state, maybe one more, that hasn't done that. I think that, of course, you have it right now. It's not like we're adding something new.
You're just extending the benefit.
We're extending it is what we're doing. And because of that, I'm not sure. I'd have to find out how much money the state will receive. But and I am pro-life, and when the Supreme Court ruled on abortions, as they did, then you're going to have more children. And you're going to have, and those children, a lot of them are from those that are on Medicaid. And so they need help. If we're going to say you're going to have these children, you're not going to have an abortion in Mississippi, then they're going to need help, and we need to try to help them. And of course, like I say, that'll be mostly all federal money. So.
Well, so Gene, do you see that being able to, some form of the extension of this program being able to get out of the legislature?
Well, I know that we've done the cost or whatever on it, and it will cost the state $6 to $7 million. You're not talking about a lot of money. $6 million is a lot of money, but it's not in terms of what it does.
To $7 billion. It's
not,
yeah.
So it's not, the cost of it is not the issue. But I think the House is, and I think the Senate is too, pretty firm on we're not going to expand Medicaid itself. If this can be done if we can work the details out between the House and Senate, I think it can get done. It's not undoable, one of those deals. But I think it can possibly we can get together somehow on that.
Well, what was interesting is that because this is just a silo of Medicaid. This isn't expanding all of Medicaid. It's just one particular for new moms to be able to give them coverage and things. It was just weird to see the governor take such an about face, that he was so against anything that had to do with Medicaid.
The issue is, there's an old saying about a camel getting his nose under the tent, and you blink and he'll be in the tent. The governor's the same way that I think most of the House members are. We don't want to see that camel get his nose under the tent, and we don't want this to be a way for him to get his nose under the tent. So because we're not interested in expanding Medicaid.
Very good. So we'll have to be tracking that one too to see if there's some kind of compromise that everybody can come to where everybody feels warm and fuzzies about doing that one little part of it.
Yeah, and another thing is we want to make sure, since you're talking about health, really, we're doing everything we can to make sure that our hospitals can, especially the rural hospitals, can stay open. They're important. They're important, as important as anything we're doing. Hospitals, to me, are a lot more important than any road or any building. That's just me. But saving someone's life is way more important.
Well, I understand the rural hospitals, but not to be lost in the fact is I wish there was some way, I don't know that there's anything that the government can do, but continued horror stories of here in the metro area of people having to go to the hospital, sitting in an emergency room for 6, 7, 10 hours before they're seen is absolutely crazy.
And then staying in the emergency room for like 2 or 3 days before you ever get a room.
There's got to be something that can be done with that.
We've got to do it.
When he got sick, he was stuck in there like
right.
that.
We remember that story, and it's just I don't know what as a government body that you can do because it is private market.
And it's not just private markets. The problem is the nursing issue, and it's not just nurses. We say nurses, but you're talking about nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, the whole run of the mill. Everybody that works in the hospitals, there's a shortage of those people because there's such a demand for them. And that's one of the reasons that Rankin County and our delegation specifically is pushing to put this new nursing center at Hines. Yes. There's a new $50 million nursing center that's coming up at UMMC that they're building up there. So we're gonna get them educated as soon as we get some buildings built. But the issue is we've got to get them built. And
we got to keep them here after we educate them.
After we educate them, we got to figure out a way to make sure we keep them here. So, that's the private industry part of it. That the thing most people don't realize, we only have one state hospital in the state. That's UMC. All the rest of them are private. They're for they may be not for profit, but they're not public entities like UMC is.
Yeah, they're not funded on the back end, for the most part, by the state government because it is a state agency, for lack of a better term.
Well, I think we might have a few handful of county hospitals still, but we've passed a bill now where the rural and smaller hospitals, well, all hospitals really, can work together and send patients to each other, and I'm talking about even private hospitals. They can all work together now and treat certain patients. In other words, if they don't have a room at whatever hospital, they can send it down the road to that patient down the road where they can treat that person, and they do have the doctors there, and that'll make a difference, I think.
Wow, something certainly needs to be done, and it's healthcare is probably one of the biggest businesses in this country, and it's just hard. You're sick, and it's like, which hospital do I go to? You have to almost shop around to see who's got the least amount of wait time in an emergency room, not necessarily because it's the better hospital, but you just want to be seen, right?
Well, you got to make sure they're in your network and everything else. I mean, we've made it too complicated, I think, for some of the hospitals, but we're trying to make that easier so that when you go to the hospital, you don't have to worry about those things. Mm-hmm. But let me tell you, if you go to the hospital and you're really sick being pneumonia, heart attack, whatever, you don't ask. When you go to that emergency room, you just say, help me.
Yeah.
And you don't ask whether that doctor's in the network or that hospital's in the network. So we need to make this thing a lot easier for people.
Well, on a good news story for the medical world, at least that some people believe, our Representative Gene Newman got a bill passed all the way through. And
the governor hadn't signed it yet, but he says he's going to.
He's going to sign it. Where you wanted to help limit the amount or eliminate transgender treatment
for minors.
For anyone under 18, which seems like a no-brainer for the most part, because we don't let kids make those kind of life-altering decisions, by themselves, or certainly not allow a parent to do that for a child that is under 18, just because when it's done, well, it's pretty much done. I mean, you're going to live with that for the rest of your life. But your bill got passed.
It did.
Let me say something before he starts talking. I think that's the most significant bill we passed this year. I think our representative did a great job. The bill was so well written and all. We had a couple people try to offer amendments, but it was so well written there were no amendments accepted in the Senate, and we took it just as he had it and sent it to the governor. I think it's a great bill.
I think it accomplishes what we wanted to accomplish by keeping minors from having their sex changed willingly or otherwise. I think that we penalize the right people, and that's the medical profession. So if a parent wants to do it or a child wants to do it, they're not the ones being penalized. It's strictly the medical profession, and we leave enough of a liability tail on it at 30 years that it'll keep them out of it. So. Even if part of the rest of it is ruled unconstitutional, that 30 years will keep it from anything from going forward. But we believe that it will stand up in court once it, and we know it's going to be tried. So but we believe that the changes that we made from what other states have done, that by just holding the medical professional accountable, that it'll stand up in court.
And a lot of when we talk about the treatments, certainly number one, it would include surgeries, sex-changing surgeries, but it also goes to a lot of the, boys taking estrogen, girls taking testosterone, that sort of thing, right?
That's correct. That would stop all that.
You know, it's not necessarily.
Now, it does not prevent a child from having psychiatric help to get therapy, or to seek professional help for they may be depressed or whatever because of what they're going through. It does not stop any of that. It does not prevent any of that.
And I think one of the things we talked about before is your impetus for doing this, Bill, is that, you know, you can do what you want as an adult.
That's
You're
correct.
free to do whatever you want as an adult, but you've had so many, and it is a morality issue, you've had so many things trickling down to schools that started in high school that now all of a sudden it's trickling down into junior high, and then heaven forbid it's now even in the elementary schools. So it's something that you felt you had to act on just because of the intrusion into the lower schools, right?
Exactly. Now, let me say, I don't know of any transgender operations that's ever happened in Mississippi for a minor, ever. But you do know of a minor? I hadn't heard of one. But anyway, it couldn't have been many. I didn't know any hospitals were actually doing that in Mississippi. But the ones I talked to were not, or told me they were not. But for an adult can do what they want to do.
But even if there's not a lot, Gene, what I think one of the things is, okay, now you're going to prevent it because the cart was rolling.
One is too many for a minor.
I mean, the cart was rolling.
It is, Gene, and I agree with you 100%.
So if you take away that one, but again, as people just keep dipping their toe in the water and you warm up to getting in the pool, it was only a matter of time before it became, oh, well, this is happening all over. Why not here?
If they set up a special clinic for it at a hospital in Jackson, and that clinic was operating, not surgically operating, but that clinic was up and operating and doing business, there was going to be more and more demand for it, and that we can't have that.
Certainly not. I mean, that's not the values for our community standards here in the state of Mississippi. I mean, that's the other thing people have to remember, that what's legal also has to match the community standards that your individual area sets, and we have that control as the state, right, Dean?
Right, and you know, these children are children. I mean, we got to, regardless of what the parent might think on that one, they need to really think about it, because that child really is being influenced by their parents. You can't tell me that no child is not influenced by their parents. If a parent were to say no, 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 then it would be over.
Well, I mean, California, a 15-year-old can walk into a hospital and have their sex changed without their parents ever knowing about it.
And that's crazy.
And how long would that have been before they were doing it here like that? And
how long would it be before that child regretted it?
Right, and that's, if you're 15 years old, 16 years old, you think a whole lot differently just 10 years later that you're 25 or 26 and you're like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that. Well, it's too late now, because you're not fully mentally developed yet, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I applaud you for that bill, and I'm glad that it was getting through the Senate. It was great work, and we're just awaiting signature from the governor, and we hope to be there on the day that they do that signing. We may come up there and spotlight you.
What do we have? 2 in the Senate that voted against it. I don't know their reasons for it, but we had 2 people, I think, is all.
Well, you guys have a
50-2 vote.
Now comes I know the bills were hard, but now you guys are jumping into giving out the money. It's appropriations time, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And believe me, everyone has their hand out, from the smallest community to the largest city. I'm telling you, everyone and every county, and they all have needs, and they do have needs. A lot of it are more wants than needs. So we got to make sure that we take care of the needs first and then the wants.
Well, the state agencies too. This is from the smallest state agency
absolutely
to the biggest state agency.
The biggest thing that we're going, I hope we're going to hold on, is that we're all of especially the state agencies, all want their budgets upped, and we don't need to get into that. We need to keep their budgets where they're at. Yeah. We don't need to increase spending on an annual basis. We need to stay where we are.
Well, that'll be.
And we need a savings account in this state. Believe me, the sugar high that we've been on the last 2 or 3 years is ending. I mean, already we're seeing a drop in percentage compared to last year of revenue. So we need to be really careful. And the conservative thing to do is to have a bank account, to have the reserves, to be able to take care of those emergencies that we're going to have. Mm-hmm. Just as you do at home when your washer and dryer both go out and then your refrigerator goes out the next week, or your air conditioner or whatever. We have those same things. They say hurricanes come, the big ones, every 20 years. What's it been, 18? Get ready. I mean, we're going to have another big hurricane. We've got to be prepared when that happens.
Well, it's that whole adage. If a state agency or somebody wants one-time money to do something, great. But just don't put something in place that's long-term, recurring, year after year after year.
Recurring expenses. We need to be very, very careful with that.
Wow. You guys continue to.
We increased the budget overall last year with the teachers' pay raise, and
largest they've ever had.
Largest
tax cut we've ever had.
And those, and the tax cut. So you got to look at what we did there, and then those teacher pay raises. Those are automatically every other year, something that there's a percentage that goes up on them. I can't remember what the exact details of that is, but there's some kind of they keep getting increases. That's automatic.
It's like the cost of living. You're going to get that automatic
cost
increase.
Of living, yeah. That's basically what it is.
2%, 3%, maybe somewhere in that.
Since we're talking about cost of living, can I bring up another subject?
Yes, you may.
Another subject would be the COLA, the 13th check. As I've said on this program, even don't worry about your 13th check.
And this is for the retirement, the retirees.
This is PERS.
Yeah, the retirees from the state system.
And teachers.
Yes.
That's right. Well, I think we passed a bill putting, I can't remember, it was 30 million or 30 million, I believe it was, into the retirement system. So that people there, we don't want their retirement, the people that are employed right now going up, and we don't want to, and the state agencies were about to get in trouble based on what PERS, the board, which we have nothing to do with, by the way, elected by the state employees and retirees. Anyway, we're going to make sure that the cities and the counties and the schools don't go bankrupt because of PERS. So one trying to take care of the other. So we've done it twice before. I know I've put 50 million into PERS, and I think we're putting 30 in this time, and I think PERS now is backed off, my understanding. But what they recommended was, of course, they can't raise the employees. Only the legislature can do that, and we're not going to do it. So, but anyway, they wanted to increase it. It's going to cost the city of Pearl about $1.5 million. Is that right? I think that's right. It's going to cost Rankin County or Pearl Schools $1.5 million. $500,000 to the city, $1.5 million to Pearl Schools. $5 million a year is going to cost Rankin County schools. So we stopped that. We said, no, we're not doing that. We can't bankrupt the cities and the schools and so anyway. And the counties. It
was a shell game too, because it's like, we're not raising the individual contributions, but we're raising the city, the county.
Well, so they can't raise the individual.
That's right. Only the legislature can do that.
Right, but that was their hook to it. Is like, we're not asking for the people to pay more. But in essence, you are paying more because it's our money that goes into that.
What that does is, so if they raise it on Pearl, they raise it on Pearl Schools, they raise it on Rankin County, your car tags is going up about 25%, and your home taxes on your home is going up about 15 to 20%.
Because it's not free money; it's got to get covered somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, all they can do is just pass it on, and that's the reason we all just said no. Well, that's not going to happen. You're going to do something, and they have to produce a plan by December of this year. They have to give us a plan by December next year, or they're going to see that bill again.
Yeah.
Wow. That's for down the line. You guys got plenty of work to do right now on everything else that's still on your plate. But you guys continue to keep up the good fight. It's yeoman's work you guys are doing, and we're super proud of both of you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
All right. You can track any of the bills that we've talked about today see if they're alive, see if they're dead, and how much money a lot of these places are going to get by going to mslegislature.gov. And you can go and check out everything you want, find out how to contact these gentlemen and any legislator up there under the dome. So until next time, I'm Greg Flynn, folks. Have a great day.